Travis Campbell, there you are, and here I am. Isn't that amazing how that works? So,
It is amazing how that works.
this is Travis and Ross, and this is Notes On. And last week we wandered around a lot, and it was a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed it. And this is where we try to do Christ on purpose. So, Travis, I wanted to pick up on something we ended the show with last week, and that is how brittle this generation is. And I don't want to blame this generation, just people in general and Christians too. Everybody, listen to this. How we just don't know how to care for people and maintain a conversation and a friendship with people that we disagree with or are offended by.
Right.
And let's explore that. What does a healthy relationship look like when you have fundamental disagreements about, politics, religion, when the trash should be taken out, whatever it is. I think about that verse that says, "Be quick to what is it? Quick to listen."
Quick to listen, slow to speak.
Yeah, and slow to anger. Yeah,
and slow to anger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've totally mastered this, but I mean, disagreeing without being disagreeable it's just a skill set that you have to manage. I don't know. I mean, I just have I've usually been able to handle those with whom I disagree in an agreeable fashion. I think it's because when I was in college, I would sit almost daily and listen to professors just destroy the Bible. And I don't think that they woke up that morning and said, I'm going to go really do a number on the Bible today. I mean, they saw themselves as engaging in scholarship, and they were. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't scholars, but they saw themselves as engaging in scholarship, and they were trying to navigate the text, and they just didn't think it was the Word of God because they just thought there were too many problems with it.
Yeah.
Of course, I was like, like, whoa, I didn't hear that. So I found myself I would go up and I would ask questions. And, later Greg Bonson, I remember listening to him one time, and he said, people are surprised to hear me say this, but when you are sitting in a class and there's a professor just knocking the faith, he goes, you've paid money to sit under that person and study under them. And so you were to show them the due respect that they are to be given as professors. And it's one thing for you to go up and ask a question. You can even challenge them, raise your hand and give a challenge. But it's not good. It's immoral, really, for you to be mocking them or trying to set them straight and all that stuff. You're the student, they're the teacher.
Yeah.
This person has a PhD in their field, and you don't even have a bachelor's degree. Where do you come off, thinking that you can go toe to toe with this person? And so I kind of learned that through experience, and I was glad to hear Bonson kind of echo that. I was like, yeah, I mean, I had to learn that the hard way. These are smart people, and they're not like, they don't wake up with this nefarious scheme or plan. But that having been said, I think that they're being disingenuous when they say, well, I'm a Christian, even though I don't think anything in here is true, including the resurrection. And so I would go to the library every day after having them walk me through the objection. And, I was sort of forced into apologetics,
Yeah.
save my own skin, I mean, it was either that or just, all right, well, I guess I'm going to give up the faith. And I wasn't keen on doing that.
So I have a friend who's a Christian, but pretty liberal.
Hmm.
and yet we've maintained a friendship over about 20 years. And I think the key to me has always been I refuse to let the difference in the issues get in the way of the friendship.
Absolutely.
We say what we want to say, we talk about it, we debate, we disagree, and we are absolutely adamant, mandatory, fixed that we're going to be friends, and we have stayed friends. And I
Sure.
think, think about it this way. Let's say your goal was to truly change someone's mind. Okay?
Mm.
What's the best way to do that? The best way to do that is to not scream and yell and condescend and run away. The best
Right.
way to do that is to listen to them, treat them as an adult, as a human being,
Right.
regard what they say, and pray for them. That's the part that a lot of people is missing. Pray for the friendship
Sure.
and come back time after time after time with goodwill and kindness and patience and humility. And like you did, educate yourself, because you have to learn stuff yourself, and say things that are honest and truthful, and not uh, attacking or condescending.
Right.
And eventually you will be able to influence that person. So really, what's your goal? You want to just scream and yell? That's easy. Go do it. You want to actually be an influence?
Right.
What does the Bible say about how to do that and maintain a friendship? I think, for a long time I've been wanting to do something called a a, a now I can't think of the name of it, like a workshop to be able to work on this with Christians. Um, uh, uh, I'm on the air and I can't think of it. I will. But can you imagine the influence, the witness that Christians would have if we were actually as good at this as the Bible tells us that we should be?
Oh gosh. I think we'd have more Christians, that's for sure.
If churches actually taught a course in how to be kind, how to be a good listener.
Sure. Well, I think that it's like my pastor says to us, well, you can't hate the person you pray for.
Yeah.
Another thing that I did, I didn't let go of my friends, even as I got more and more into following Christ. I mean, I started off kind of as a party animal in college, and I found that life empty.
Yeah.
I began to grow a little bit, and my roommate and we became best of friends. To this day, he's one of my all-time best friends. But he and I just kept adding roommates to to our cadre, so that by the time we were graduating, I had like 5 or 6 roommates.
Uh-huh.
And my friend and I mean, the original roommate, he and I were the only Christians in that crew. I mean, the rest were atheists or agnostics or what have you, but they didn't have any thought that Christianity could be true. And we had honest discussions and sometimes screaming matches.
Yeah.
But by that time you're family. I mean, I'm not
Right.
above getting into a brawl with somebody verbally. I mean, I'm not gonna not. I mean, that would be just total lie if I told you. Yeah, every conversation I've ever had with somebody, was always just kind and nice and
Right.
but they end. I don't have a whole lot of memories of them ending with us just never talking again.
That's right. Because sometimes even when you screw up and you scream and you yell, and if you hang in there and keep working at it, you can finish the conversation. If you're committed to doing that, you
Yeah,
can find a place at the end where you can still be friends.
sure.
Civil discourse workshop. That's what I've been calling it. And my mind blanked. I would love to work with somebody to put something like that together for Christians where we actually practice it on each other,
Sure.
practice disagreeing, practice talking to people that you think are crazy. How do we do that? How do we make friendships through that?
The book that everybody is, every time this kind of subject comes up, the book that everybody says you should read, I haven't read it, is Greg Koukl's Tactics.
Yes, I've read it.
Oh, yeah, how is it?
It's great. But it's a technical book. It's
Okay.
more about
How to argue and not how to relate.
Right.
Okay.
How to be a good listener. You know, the Columbo tactic. Ask a lot of questions. It's an excellent book, and he's got a second edition that I think I bought and I haven't read yet. I read the original edition, but absolutely, that's a great book.
Incidentally, there's a new book out called Shepherds for Sale. Have you heard of it?
No.
I think it's Megan Basham. I'm going to type here. We can keep talking, but I'm going to type here real quick and make sure I got the right author. But Alisa Childers had her on, and she actually went after she's not a friend of mine, or he's not a friend of mine, but I really respect him. Your friend, or at least your acquaintance, Gavin Ortlund.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this at all?
No.
Yeah, she goes after Gavin Ortlund, linking him with these other sort of compromisers.
Really?
And Gavin Ortlund has a new Megan Basham, so I got the right name, but she's basically talking about how certain left-wing groups have paid off some of our best evangelical leaders to compromise the faith.
Yeah.
He has a whole lot of examples of this, and I have no doubt that this sort of thing goes on. The guy that really surprised me, and she talks about him quite a bit in our interview with Childers, she is Francis Collins, who apparently has he's been at the forefront of fetal research. So he apparently is pro-choice in the abortion issue.
Okay.
So, but she goes after Gavin Ortlund. He did a video on climate change, and he's done like over 350 videos now, and he's done like one on climate change. I wouldn't have known that Ortlund had done a video on climate change had I not watched his response. Because I heard the interview with Alisa Childers, and then the next day I saw that Gavin Ortlund had a response to Megan Basham. So I was intrigued, as she mentioned Ortlund, and I was like, that's weird, because Ortlund's so solid and sound, and I've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
Especially on how to listen and how to be ironic in tone. And you could tell that he was pushed to the edge, and I don't blame him. I would have probably been yelling on the screen, because she basically fused certain quotations of his together, and if you put them together the way she did, it sounds fairly nefarious. But he showed you the video clip, and he goes, it took me a long time to find it, because I didn't even remember having said it. But really the video was, here's my position on climate change. I know it's debatable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm obviously not telling you what to think. Please go out. We need to continue the discussion, go out and study. And of course, our dear friend Hugh Ross has written a book on climate change called Weathering Climate Change.
Right.
So conservatives can write on this topic and agree with liberals that, yes, human beings are contributing to the warming of the planet. And I don't know if anybody seriously disagrees with that. The question is, to what degree, and what is the solution? And I'm not satisfied with literally a single left-wing solution, because I think that we need to save the planet, but we don't need to kill the human race in the process. And if you destroy the coal industry, you've pretty much consigned a significant portion of Americans and really the population around the world to freezing to death in the winter.
Yeah.
So, and no, windmills aren't going to work, AOC. They're just not.
So there's the question, Travis. What level of disagreement? It's like you were talking about with your son last week about, he says things that teachers said, and you said, yeah, you took offense to that. But at what point do you give grace and just let stuff go? And at what point do you raise a stink? And that's where wisdom comes in. Bible's loaded with passages about being wise, and we've lost that. We just want to argue about every single thing, and you can't do it. You're gonna wear yourself out. Nobody's got the energy
Sure.
to do that. And as Christians, we really have to pick. You have to pick your battle as non-Christians. It's just part of the way life is constructed. And like you say, you have to learn how do you be offended and get through it. We're all going to be offended a lot of times. So how do you get through that as a Christian and not let it destroy you or try to destroy the other person?
Yeah, and it's the hardest. It's the hardest skill to master as a person. I mean, if you want to be a moral person, someone said something offensive to me today, and I almost got extremely, worked up because it touched a nerve, and I just had to walk it back. In fact, when I began to correct the individual and say, well, I don't think that's true, and I started saying, yeah, I've done this, this, and this, but I would never do that. There was this, well, yeah, that's right. On the end, it's like, well, then why would you say what you said to begin with? It's just kind of like one of these, like, okay, why are you walking? I mean, this is when you're supposed to give me examples of where I've crossed a line.
They said this to you as a teacher?
No, well, they said this to me. This is not me as a teacher. This is just a different issue. And when I said, well, I do follow these protocols here. No, you don't. I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I do. I mean, I have made mistakes and I've always come to make the correction, but I do follow the protocols that are set in front of me. And I've always done my best to do this. And this person was getting on to me for not following. So I didn't know that this was a protocol. I did this last year. Well, it's a different year. And I'm like, well, if you don't get on to me for doing the same thing I'm doing now last year, and I didn't get in trouble last year for doing it, isn't that a good reason to think a precedent has been set? So why am I catching flack here? I've always followed the protocols. I've always followed the rules. No, you haven't. Well, could you please give me an example of when I've done this, when I haven't? I've made mistakes, but I've made amends. And of course, well, yeah, that's true. Well, then why would you bring it up that I'm not following the protocols, that I'm not following the rules?
Yeah.
But, instead of going round and round and round with this person, the bottom line is, I resolved the issue. In 20 minutes, I resolved it.
Good.
Now it's just like, that's whatever, So I have a week or so to sort of get centered and interact with this individual for the rest of the year in a civil way, But we run into these things all the time. And when do you raise the stink and when do you just let it slide? With my son, it was just always, I looked at his age and I said, this kid is too young to handle this issue on his own. So I usually tried to use whatever this injustice that was happening to him, I usually try to use it as a teaching moment.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is look, you have me, and you're going to be treated. You're not going to get an unfair shake here in my home. Out there, I can't guarantee you're always going to get a fair shake. Um, but there were a few occasions where I just thought he was too young, or he worked too hard to get to something, and he didn't. He jumped through all the hoops that was being imposed on him, and he didn't get it. So I think there are 3 or 4 occasions during his whole upbringing where I either sent an email and just made inquiries. I didn't demand anything. I just, why didn't he get this? And as a person who's a coach, I've gotten the same kind of thing. Why didn't my son get it? I don't mind those parents who ask questions like that, because I've asked them. And I don't think I've ever had the parent that just goes off the handle, well, you're a moron because you didn't let my boy do whatever. So when it was clear that he wasn't of the age to handle the issue, that's when I stepped in. But 99% of the time it was, oh, okay, well, yeah, you got an unfair shake there. They didn't give you really the grade that you deserved on your essay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've lived through that. So, yeah.
So what does the Bible say about this, Travis? Think about what are the texts that apply to this in how to be a good friend, how to be a person who is reliable and loyal and doesn't get too offended with
Yeah.
tertiary things.
Proverbs is just full of the kinds of wisdom you're talking about. Everything from, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another.
Yeah.
Do you have a friend, and are you a friend that sharpens another person? Are you willing to look at a friend and tell them when they're going wrong? Only a true friend will do that.
One thing that has really helped me is I want to give the person the benefit of the doubt and at least try to understand what the point of view is. Like, explain to me why you believe that. And that does several things. It gives them an opportunity to express themselves. It gives you a chance to listen and to learn and to show them that you want to hear them. And that goes a long ways towards reconciliation, towards peace, just listening and ask enough questions so that you really get it, like you really understand it. Okay, you're going to vote for the Democrat. Why? Explain that to me. It may take a while, but if you understand it, for me anyway, it's a lot easier for me to give grace to the person rather than just thinking they're an idiot.
Sure. I met a Muslim a few years ago, and we actually befriended each other.
Uh-huh.
And I got into several conversations with him, and he always brought up religion to me. I mean, I may have brought it up once or twice, but I mean, whenever we talked, he was always brought up the fact that he was Muslim, hard living in Southwest Georgia with that viewpoint and all of that. And I remember on one occasion, it just kind of evolved. The conversation evolved where I was ready to start offering him evidences for Christianity. And but I do remember whenever you talk to him, you pretty much had to talk to him on his terms. Like he wasn't the type of person that engaged in a lot of give and take. And so as I started walking through the evidence for who Jesus was, the resurrection, and so forth, he would stop me and he would go for like 10 minutes on a tirade.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point in the conversation, I said, well, I'm happy to give you the evidence for Jesus' resurrection, but you're going to have to sit and listen. I mean, part of the problem with this conversation is you keep interrupting me, and I can't even give you the evidence.
Right.
And he kind of admitted that. And I just remember the conversation just sort of petered out, and then I ended up never giving him the evidence.
Yeah.
And our Lord says, "Don't throw pearls before swine." And when I'm talking to people, I can size them up as those who are really seeking. And then there are those who are so negative, so closed off, they're just not going to hear it. And so it is literally a waste of time to even try to engage them on a conversation on that level. That doesn't mean you can't befriend them.
That's right.
It just means that the conversations just aren't going to be on things of the gospel. They're just going to be on baseball or music or what have you. Tomorrow, my father has a dear friend who I now consider a dear friend. He's an atheist. And when he found I'm in a debate, I'm debating God's existence, and it's my first formal debate in just a few weeks. And when my father, he's far more proud of me than he should be. He always wants to, talk about what his boy is doing. My father, Mrs. Calling, he should have been the voice of Foghorn Leghorn.
Boy, I said boy.
And my father talks like that. I don't understand why, just so Travis, you're in a debate. Tell Dale about the debate. And so I'm like, he doesn't want to hear about a debate. And so when this subject of me having the debate came up, he goes, "Oh, you're basically just debating the existence of Spider-Man." He was very dismissive. Now, look, if his worldview is true, that's all you're really doing. You're just spattering words. There's no way to know these things. It's crazy. But what's really interesting is whenever I run into someone who just sort of dismisses apologetics like that, and then I think of the millions of Christians out there that dismiss apologetics. You can't prove God and all that. They're playing right into the atheists.
Yes.
They're the atheists. Do you think that atheists like the idea or dislike the idea that you think you can prove God's existence? They obviously don't like the idea.
Right.
Okay, and do you think that Satan is happy with the prospect of proving God's existence or not happy?
Not happy. Yeah.
So I don't understand why there are all these Christians. See, I get it from him. So I'm very patient with him. It's the Christians that I'm impatient with. We're like, you can't prove God, it's all faith. That's exactly what my atheist friend says. I say thou.
It means they don't even understand their own faith.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're out of time again.
We're out of time again. It happened so fast, my friend. This was good. Thank you for the conversation.
Good, but maybe we'll start our little series up again on interviewing people from other denominations. And
yeah, I really want to do that.
We kind of had a hiatus from that, dealing with world events and elections. And last time we talked about politics, Kamala wasn't even the nominee. Now she's full steam ahead.
That's something else we could talk about. Okay.
Well, she's really smart, though. I'm really happy that we have such a smart person running. She knows the color of school buses and knows the chronological order between today and tomorrow. She's fantastic.
Wow, she could be president.
She knows space is big.
Travis, she proves the mantra: when you grow up, if you really want to be president, you can be president.
There you go.
There you go.
Take care, my friend.
All right, brother. See you.
Bye.
Bye.